All right. I hope everybody was able to get a quick bio break and water breaks and stretch your legs. Well, introducing our next speaker. Well, our next speaker is somebody who has many firsts, if I may say, tagged with his name. He is Asia's first SAFE Fellow. He has been recognized for his extensive knowledge and contributions to the SAFE community. He is also India's first SAFE program consultant trainer. He is a transformation coach, and today he challenges our typical notion that Agile is only about following a set of processes and rituals. How vital a role does belief play in a successful transformation for an organization? Everyone, please put your hands together to welcome Anand Murthy-Raj. Anand, thanks for joining in. Over to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for being on a Saturday afternoon during the lunchtime. I will just, okay. I'm going to talk something a little different today. My talk would be more related to what is that we have to do to achieve business agility beyond Scrum. And we always believe that by following a set of practices, we achieve business agility. But there are a lot of other things that we need to do before we achieve this business agility. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a flavor of different things that we need to do. And then I want you to think, at the end, I'm going to put you a question that you need to think, what is that you need to do in your context, right? Before we start, I want to play a small video to all of you. Right? This is my introduction. I think she gave a beautiful introduction about me. I will not waste time, but my only mission that I have today is to help organizations establish collaboration by breaking silos. I also truly believe in building long-term relationships, partnerships by enabling organizations to develop capabilities within themselves to transform. I also believe that transformation happens via PPT, people, process, and technology. While technology and process makes the transformation convenient, it is people who make it more memorable. So my mission statement is making transformation lovable. We have to love the art of transformation. So let's quickly get started then. I want to play this video and then let's see what we understand from the video.
The 1968 Olympic Games proved to be a turning point in the history of the high jump event. Into the Mexico City Olympic arena came not only a new name to the sport, but a new approach, which was to revolutionize the high jump event. Dick Fosbury from the United States demonstrated a new style of high jump, which some considered strange and awkward. It was a jump he had devised in the previous years, and one which unsettled his opponents. While the crowd at first saw him as a novelty, his continued success at clearing the ever-increasing height soon made it apparent he was a serious contender. Valentin Gavrilov from the Soviet Union failed at his attempt of 2.22 meters, while Fosbury and his US teammate Edward Carruthers cleared their way to a jump-off. The bar sat at 2.24. Carruthers failed, and Fosbury took his new style of high jump over the bar and into the history books. Fosbury had won his gold. Within a few years, the Fosbury flop had become the standard method of jumping in this great Olympic sport.
Okay. After this amazing victory of Dick Fosbury, a lot of people, especially the media, interviewed him and asked him, why did you devise that unique way of jumping? Till 1968 Olympics, the landing surface was a sandpit. But in 1968 Olympics, it became a foam bed. So business agility is not about following a framework. Business agility is about constantly looking at what is changing around us and how quickly we can adapt. How quickly we can adapt is what the frameworks can help. But what changing around us is more important than executing a set of rituals. So the most important aspect is to constantly keep your eyes open to the changes around us and enable ourselves to quickly adapt. That is what is business agility. Let me take you to the next. I'm going to give you a few thoughts, I'm going to sow a few seeds today in your mind. There are three types of dogs that we generally have. One is a pet dog. These are dogs that are highly adorable dogs, and people, these dogs live like our family members. The other type of dogs are the dogs that are used in military and warfare. Now, these are the dogs that help people during a disaster recovery, like an earthquake, to find if there are any humans in the rubble. Both these dogs are very obedient dogs. They listen to the master. But the most decorated dogs are the dogs who do not listen to their owners. And these are the dogs who takes the blind owner to the house pack from a supermarket. If the owner by mistake says we need to go right, the dog says no, we need to go to the left because I know where the house is. They belong to a category called intelligently disobedient dogs. That is exactly how we need to build our organizations today. How quickly these dogs have adopted themselves, because they are the one who can hear the electric vehicle sound better than human ears. And these dogs will tell the blind owners that there is an EV coming, wait, don't move. That is what the dogs will tell. So it is very important for us to understand that in organizations to achieve business agility, if you have an S sir, S master culture, it will not work. You need to have the courage to challenge the status quo. Is just courage enough to challenge the status quo? Will we be able to build an organization? Maybe not. Maybe not. And I want to tell you something about a very, very interesting concept called psychological safety. Right? Now let's take an example of this ship, of this aircraft. On August 5th, 1977, there was this Korean aircraft 801 that left Seoul to a place called Guam. Boeing 747-300 aircraft had about 237 passengers on board, including 6 off-duty Korean air flight attendants. The captain of the ship was a very decorated captain and had recently received an award for handling a B747 engine failure at a very low altitude. On that day, there was heavy rains, bad weather prevailed throughout the journey. The captain mistook an irrelevant signal to a beacon signal and landed the aircraft 5 kilometers away from the runway, killing 229 passengers on board. Later on, when the FDR was recorded, the flight data recorder and the voice data recorder was recorded, they found that the actions that was recorded on the kind of map, it gets recorded on a kind of a graph sheet of the co-pilot. Actually, the co-pilot knew that the pilot was doing wrong. But in a country like Korea, which is highly hierarchical in nature, the co-pilot could not challenge the pilot. Had the co-pilot challenged the pilot and said, no, you're doing wrong, don't do this, I think they could have saved 220 lives. This is where we need to dramatically change even in our country. We need to have people stand up and say you are wrong to anybody in the organization. This should not be taken in a very negative sense. Had the co-pilot done that day, 229 lives could have been saved. Right? There is another story of an aircraft that I would like to say, which is considered to be an aviation miracle. It was United Airlines Flight 232 from Denver to Chicago on July 10, 1989. As I told you, this is considered to be an aviation miracle. 1 hour after the takeoff from Denver to Chicago, everything was so good. The air hostess were actually getting ready to serve food to the passengers. Suddenly, they heard some sort of a noise. All they found was the tail engine had exploded, and the worst ever thing called catastrophic failure happened when the hydraulics had failed. What do you mean by hydraulics failing? Hydraulics failing means the wheels will not come down. There are 4 levels of steps. One is automated. If the automated fails, there are 3 more methods of getting the wheels down. But on that unfortunate day, all the wheels, all the entire hydraulic system had failed. It's called as a catastrophic failure. Captain Al Hines and co-pilot Bill struggled the day to get the aircraft under control. They were also joined by Denny Finch, an off-duty flight instructor. They started to talk to the air traffic controlling unit in the Sioux City, and they were very fortunate that day because there was a corn ground. There was a ground with cornfield, and the only option they had was to land the flight, crash land the flight on cornfield. Miraculously, as the nose of the flight hit the ground, the flight broke into 3 pieces. Right? 3 pieces. The flight was upside down. The flight went upside down after hitting the aircraft. Miraculously, that day, 184 lives were saved, including the 4 pilots. 112 perished. 45 out of 112 perished, not due to the crash, but due to the smoke after the crash. Smoke after the crash. The captain said there are 5 elements that are important, that was very important that day for this miraculous save of 184 lives. He said luck. We were so lucky that there was a cornfield close to the landing part. Communication. Remember, they have done so many simulations of these in their training. And there had to be efficient communication between the pilot, between the ATC, between the air hostess. The air hostess did a fantastic job to make people calm. Preparation. Within 45 minutes, they had to prepare for a crash land. The execution of the preparation and the collaboration and the whole corporation of how they worked on it. Cooperation. I'm sorry, there's a spelling mistake. It's cooperation. The training simulations saved 184 lives that day. There was no miracle that happened. It was all about your practice. We have a challenge to come and talk to team members every day in the office at 10:30 a.m. We blame the traffic. Our Scrum ceremonies are so bad. Scrum ceremonies are so bad. People are not giving meaningful updates in your daily Scrum. I think it's important that as leaders, we have to make our teams sweat in peace so that they don't bleed in the war. At any chaos, which we are going to run shortly, all of us will run in chaos in our lives now. What comes to the fore is your muscle memory. All the plans, the procedures, the escape route, whatever you have written is general line of guidance. We have to practice these principles, practices aligned with principles, and these have to become our muscle memory. It is only then that we'll be able to deal with crisis properly. It's very important for us to understand that the definition of leadership is extremely different in India versus extremely different for the other countries. It's very different. It's completely different. Right? I can give you numerous examples about some authors from the west part of the world who says that India and China especially, you cannot develop as a nation if you cannot connect to your culture. So I want to really talk about a very important aspect today called leadership. How do you define leaders? In the West, it's all about profits. Anybody who brings great profit is a great leader. But in India, it is not like that. It is more about morality here. Let's answer this question. Who was the architect of Ram's victory in Ramayana? Who was the architect? It was not Hanuman. It was not Lakshman, but it was Vibhishan who was the architect. When Ram started to hit arrows on Ravan's head, and one arrow would knock off the head and there would be another head coming from inside, Ram was completely shocked. He did not know what to do. It was then when Vibhishan came and said, hit his navel. His navel has something called Amrit. And he said, hit his navel and he will die quickly. And Ram hits his navel and Ravan died. In the story of Mahabharata, Karna, the character called Karna, supported the bad guys, knowing that they were doing wrong. He knew that he is fighting a war against his own brothers, but still he stood for the moral values that his friend had given to him. We know Karna did a wrong thing and Krishna punished him for taking the wrong side. But tell me, in our country, how many of you parents are ready to name your kids as Vibhishan and not as Karna? In spite of all this, we name kids today as Karna, not as Vibhishan. Because in our moral values, Vibhishan is seen as the one who is a traitor. Though he helped Ram, he's still a traitor. It doesn't count how much profits you bring to the table in India. Morality is more important than profits in India. We just cannot copy the Western template of leadership in India. It simply does not work. This is the big mistake we are trying to do. We are trying to mimic the Western concept of leadership. It doesn't work in India. We have to define a leadership model which is supported by the Indian way of thinking, our belief system, and then only organizations can thrive. And one such leader whom I can give you is Mr. Ratan Tata. He has lived up to the expectation of what an Indian leader is. And that's why you see, as long as there is sun and moon on this earth, Tata will exist because they know what Indian leadership context means to them. And that's how whatever they do, they find business agility, in India at least. Right? I also want to understand something. If you remember what happened in 2007 World Cup, we had a horrible exit from the World Cup. In a country like India, where cricket is a religion and not even a game, losing the World Cup in 2007 was something not acceptable at all. We lost to Bangladesh, we lost to Sri Lanka, we didn't even qualify for Super 6. But exactly 4 years later, on April 2nd, 2011, we all celebrated. Some of us even cried that day. I was jumping at my home because we had won the World Cup. We defeated Australia, we defeated South Africa, and we defeated Sri Lanka on that day to win the World Cup after 28 years. So my question to all of you is, how did this remarkable change happen? What was that something different that the team in 2007 did in 2011, which got them to the top of the world that day? And you need to listen to this very interesting story of what happened that day, the first time when the whole Indian team was called to Bangalore for a cricket academy, training academy. I'm sure a few of you would remember this academy as well. The whole Indian team comes to the Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bangalore. Instead of going to the ground, they were asked to go to a training room. So they opened the doors of the training room. They found 3 gentlemen standing there. One was Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who was their captain. Second one was Gary Custon, who is their coach. And there was another guy whom they were not aware of who this guy was. His name is Mike Horn. Now, Mike Horn is an extreme sport specialist. He does crazy things. He jumps from the top of the mountain, top bungee jumping. He goes to the forest, lives in the forest. He's also done some expedition in Arctic or Antarctic Ocean somewhere where he was boating for about a few days. And he's a guy who he puts his body into extreme conditions. So a video of Mike Horn was showed, and a couple of the players said, well, this is another motivation video for us. And then Mike Horn asked a question. What is that you want to do in 2011 World Cup? And they said, we want to win the World Cup. And then he asked a question, why do you want to win a World Cup? And people said about 130 crore people are there, this, all kind of logical answers were given. He said, I don't want to hear any logical answers. I want an emotional answer, he said. Emotional answer. And there was nothing like, people didn't understand what the question was. The whole team spent about a day when someone made a statement saying that there is one guy in our group who is carrying the batting responsibility on his head for the last 24 years. And they said, we want to win the World Cup for Sachin. This became the jargon for the team. Wherever they go, this is what they would say. After every batsman was out, they would huddle, hold each other's shoulder, stand in a circle, and then talk and then tell, we want to win the World Cup for Sachin. They would look at each other's eyes and tell, we want to win the World Cup for Sachin. And eventually they won it. How many of us have spent time to connect our teams emotionally to a purpose? If you ask your team, why do you come to office? I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 has no answer for it. It's high time that we connect to the heart before we try to tell something to the head. If you go heart to head path, you achieve a lot of things. But if you try head to heart, that path is not at all there. It doesn't exist. So it's time for us to connect people emotionally. Lastly, I want to tell you something about the authenticity of leadership, which is very critical for business agility. I want to talk about 3 incidents that happened in 3 different times of the world. First incident was in 1914, where there was this guy called Ernest Shackleton, who made an advertisement on the newspaper which said, men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. He was going for an expedition to Antarctica and he published this with honest truth. He said the truth about his challenges that they would face. The next is in 1944, Subhash Chandra Bose made this beautiful statement and said, give me blood and I shall give you freedom. And in 1968, May 28, 1968, President of United States, JFK, made this beautiful talk, which became a talk of the town. He said, we chose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Now, why am I telling all of this? It's because you need to have authenticity, authentic leaders in order to achieve business agility. Look at what Shackleton said. He said that it may safe return doubtful. Safe return doubtful is what he said. And Subhash Chandra Bose said, give me blood and I'll give you freedom. And JFK said, we are doing it because it is hard. All the 3 leaders gave the message and said, it is tough. It is tough. And they said the truth. They were authentic in their talk. And why is this authenticity important? Most employees, including you and me, appreciate your leaders better when they tell the truth upfront. Now, you tell something for the heck of saying, but you don't do it, or if it turns out different, your credibility is gone. No one would believe you as a leader again in the system. But what is really happening in the world is the third bullet. The absence of unambiguous truth will make people assume things and they will start to protect themselves. Eventually, nobody is worried about the big results. People are only worried about their existence in the organization. And lastly, when leaders chose to hide the truth, they're actually losing a huge potential they have in the form of their organization. And what happened when these 3 people made the true announcement? Subhash Chandra Bose was able to pull 40,000 men and women in Burma when he made that statement. JFK's talk was the talk of the town. Everybody, including the lady who's mopping the floor, said, what are you doing? The answer was, I'm doing something that will send a man to the moon and get him back safely. And 5,000 men applied to Shackleton's expedition. In fact, there was one guy who went into the ship hidden, though Shackleton had rejected him. He went hiding in the cargo he was hiding. I think it's time for us to be authentic leaders. You have to tell the truth to your organization. Very, very few instances I've seen where leaders come out and say actual truth of what's happening. And because after a war or a transformation, what is important is not what is right. What is important is what is left. So I think it's time for you to reflect and understand what are the essential ingredients that we need to take together in order to achieve business agility. Right? I want to stop here and ask if and open up if there are any questions. I think we still have about 4 minutes left.
Thank you, Anand. I think so many things, especially the last quote that you had, it hit me so hard. I don't think in my entire time, and we've been doing this for years now, and we go to other sessions as well, wherein I've heard this very different perspective, wherein somebody talks about morality over profit and emotions, and how important it is in leadership. Such an important thing, so much depth in it, and yet nobody talks about it. So thank you so much for bringing this point up. I think opens up, has got our gears in our minds running. And a lot of people are calling the same thing. There's so many interesting insights in this session, so many great words. People are taking back a lot of things. Guys, if anybody has any questions, please let us know. We'll unmute you. And okay, I see a hand. Monica, I'm going to unmute you. Please go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Megha. I just echo what you said. Extremely powerful session. So many insights, so many thought-provoking things. We'll try to take this opportunity, Anand, to ask you what will be your first step, like in case you are coaching a leader, because this is all about mindset change, which is really, really difficult and tricky. People don't want to change. So what message will you give if someone is starting the journey in coaching a leader to imbibe these values and principles? So how to make it subtle and more sustainable?
I think you need to change the belief system of people. Transformation is not about set of processes. No, that is change. The difference between change and transformation is trying to do something different in the realm of old is change. Trying to do something which doesn't have any relationship with old is transformation. I'm a living example of how I reversed my diabetes. I was diabetic 1.5 years back. I was on medication. Today I'm not on medication. I reversed it because I changed every aspect of my life. I changed my food. I changed my exercise. I changed my daily routine. I changed everything. In fact, I transformed at a cell level. And I'll just tell the leader, if you want to change, great. You can hire anybody. If you want to transform, you have to listen to me. That's important. You have to change your organization at the cell level. You simply cannot change a process and say they are transformed. We are very good in coming back to old habits very quickly.
Thank you. Thank you, Anand.
I see Mohit. Mohit, please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yep. Thank you. First of all, Anand, I have no words for the examples you have given. It is really amazing. Even I was numbed with the examples and the way you were explaining. Thank you for that. But my question is, I totally agree that Indian style of leadership is more over a morality rather than a profitability. So in this case, how do we handle our leaders or bosses who have a toxic environment? Our views never match. I don't believe in right or wrong. Okay, I do my work. That's like in Gita also, or in there is a saying, do the work and just forget. Okay, and but what I feel in my past experience is like when bosses are at certain place, like based on their experience, according to them, it is right. It's not wrong. It cannot be wrong. So how do we handle such situations in our day-to-day activities, like tackling the toxic environment?
It's a very difficult question. It's a very, very difficult question to answer. And it is very specific to the environment that you are in. I think the only, just remember this statement, if you break an egg from outside, you get an omelette. If you allow the egg from break from inside, you get a chicken. So you will have to wait to get the chicken. If you are a little urgent, then you get an omelette, that's all. The only way to help people is through realization. Take a glass of water in your hand. Is you and water the same? Is it the same?
No.
No. Do you know that the human body is made up of water?
Yes.
80% is water. How did you get that water? How are you getting that water every day?
We are drinking water, and then like there are some chemicals within us, like which converts our food into some liquid form, or like I can say.
We are drinking water. So that, do you now agree that the water and you are the same?
Yes. Yes.
This is the art of making somebody realize. I could have argued with you saying that it is the same, and you would have argued saying it is not the same. But if you learn the art of conveying the information the right way, in a way people can understand, things will change. And also I'll tell you, the way why we behave the way we behave is because of the way we get measured. If I am getting measured only on profits, I will only work for profits. So we will have to change the way how we need to look differently in the way what we are doing. Our measurement must be different. I think the only answer I can tell is you'll have to enable people to realize, and you'll have to make sure that you measure their success in a very different way. Then the behavior would change.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Anand.
Yeah.
I got your point.
Okay, thanks. Dinesh, if you could unmute yourself and ask a question, please.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Dinesh. Hi, Anand. Thank you so much for this powerful words. It really inspires everybody, I would say. So without wasting time, my question is like, as a Scrum day. So I'm a Scrum Master. So as a Scrum Master, like it's getting very difficult to convince the people, especially the higher leadership. Some of the leaders, they understand you better, some of them not. They think like, okay, the Scrum Master role is not that valuable. And you would say like you have to convince your leaders, but I mean the leaders, some of the leaders, not all leaders, some of the leaders, they don't care, to talk to downwards. They will say, okay, why do I need to go downward and see the people what they're doing? They will, because that will not help us for their growth. They will say, okay, I need to talk to my senior boss, senior to senior boss. So right, it happens. So in that case, I mean, it's getting very difficult to communicate, put your point, your perspective, and anything like you want the mid layer managers, like Scrum Master is kind of mid layer. So getting very difficult to convince your higher level. And they don't find, sometimes when we try our best, but they sometimes, the engineering managers, the directors, they don't
Dinesh,
find.
apologies.
Sorry.
I'll have to cut you. We are
Sure.
nearing completion. I think let Anand get 30 seconds to quickly answer your question. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry for that.
Thank you. Sure.
To whom are you winning the World Cup? Who is your Sachin? Why are we coming to office? Why are we connecting? Is there an emotional reason why we come to office? If the reason is I am coming to office to get that SMS on the last day of the month saying your salary is credited, I think we are in a wrong place. It will not help. We have to come to office to achieve something. There has to be a purpose in our life. If the purpose is clear, then I think all these problems will disappear automatically. If each one of us are running in one direction, then where is the momentum? We've killed the momentum. I think, as I clearly said, you have to first hit the heart then you touch the head. Otherwise, everything is a bouncer.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Anand. We have a lot of questions. A lot of people have raised their hands as well. I would encourage everybody to put them in chat. We will make a note and send them across to Anand. Anand, you'll have all those questions. Please take time to answer them. But we have a hard stop because our next speaker is already waiting. Thank you so much, Anand. I don't think anybody can, any one of us can put in words how amazing this session was. So thank you so much for taking time out over the weekend.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share something different today. And a special thanks to Sanjay for inviting me here. So I wish you all the very best, guys. Enjoy your day. And please send me those questions. I'll try to answer them back. Yeah.
Will. Thank
Okay.
you.